This lesson is focusing on solving two-step equations. These are your notes for section 3.5. And we're going to work with equations that now have multiple steps. So solving an equation means getting the variable alone. And the steps you're going to use to follow that is number one, you're going to make railroad tracks or teeter-totter, we kind of call it either one. Then you're going to do your pinky test to find the variable. And then you're always going to use addition or subtraction to get the term with the variable alone. And finally, you'll use multiplication or division to get the actual variable by itself. So to look at a problem like that, if I were to have 5x minus 7 equals 23, and I wanted to solve this, you would first of all make your railroad tracks or your teeter-totter, and then you would find the variable, which in this case is, the term with the variable is 5x. And you'd say, what is happening to 5x? And it's being subtracted by 7, so I'm going to add 7 to both sides. This is now gone, and I write down 5x equals 30. I'm not done. I have got my variable, the term with the variable alone. Now I need to, again, find my variable and say, okay, it's being multiplied by 5. Opposite of multiplication is division, so you'll divide by 5, and that will leave your x alone, and x equals 6. And it's always wise to check and make sure your answer makes sense. So is 5 times 6 minus 7 equal to 23? 5 times 6 is 30, minus 7 is 23. So it does work. You have some problems on your sheet. If you go ahead and look at those problems, I want you to try them. And when you're done, turn the video back on and we'll look at them together. Okay, I hope you've tried these. So the first one, you go ahead and you draw your lines if you choose to do that. Now here's my term with my variable. I leave that alone and I say what's happening to it. It's added, 5 is being added to it, so I will do the opposite and subtract 5. 5 minus 5 is 0. I'm left with a negative 3x is equal to, let's see, 2 minus 5 is also negative 3. My next step is to look at my variable and see what's happening to it. It's being multiplied by a negative 3. The opposite of multiplication is division, so I would divide by a negative 3. These cancel out, leaving an x, and negative 3 divided by negative 3 is a positive 1, so that would be my answer. I can check that. Is a negative 3 times 1 plus 5 equal to 2? Well, negative 3 times 1 is negative 3, and negative 3 plus 5 does equal 2. All right, let's try this next one. It has parentheses around it. Now, you can do two things. You can distribute in, but that will take longer. The easier thing to do is find the term with a variable, which in this case is the thing that's being grouped together, and it's being multiplied by 3, so the opposite of multiplication is division. So you're going to actually first start by dividing by 3 on each side. These 3's cancel out. You have x minus 4 is equal to 3, because 9 divided by 3 is 3. Now you find your variable. Notice that it's being subtracted by 4, so we're going to add 4. And then I have an x alone on this side and 7. And I can check that to see if I'm right by replacing a 7 here. So 7 minus 4 is 3. Is 3 times 3 equal to 9? It is. So we are correct. On this next problem, I find the term with a variable. It's right here. I want to leave that alone and figure out what's happening to it. It's being subtracted by a half. The opposite of subtraction is addition. So I'm going to add 1/2. Cancels on this side and leaves me with x divided by 8 equals, and I have a negative 7/2 plus 1/2, which makes a negative 6/2. And negative 6 divided by 2 is just a negative 3. So now I've got x divided by 8 equals negative 3. And since I'm being divided by, I would want to go ahead and multiply. So you would multiply by 8 on both sides, and x would equal negative 24. Then we would want to check that and see if that is correct. So I would plug in a negative 24 up here, and negative 24 divided by 8 is a negative 6, and negative 6 minus a half, I'm sorry, negative 4 minus a half. My goodness, I'm having trouble with it. It's a negative 3 minus a half, which means negative 3.5. And 7/2 is also negative 3.5, so it does work out. Okay, let's look at this last problem. Go ahead and find the term with the variable and leave that alone. See what's happening to it. It's being added by 5, so I will subtract 5. I have a negative z over 3 is equal to 4. Now, when I find my z, this negative sign, I'm going to put it down here with my 3 because I don't want the variable to be negative. It doesn't matter which term you put the negative with. So now this is negative z divided, z divided by negative 3. Opposite of division is multiplication. Remember, don't use an x. Use a dot to multiply by a negative 3. These are going to cancel, leaving you a z, and we get negative 12 on this side. We can go ahead and check that. So I plug in a negative 12, so I have a negative 12 over 3 plus 5, I think what that was, equals 9. Two negatives make a positive, so this becomes a positive 4, and 4 plus 5 does equal 9. So I know I am correct. So it takes some time to practice doing two-step equations, but if you show your work, you will be able to solve those. So your homework is on page 112, and you need to go ahead and jump into that and practice solving these problems. Please make sure you write down the problem and show your work, and when you're done, you can do your homework quiz.